In the hit manga and anime series Naruto by the author Masashi Kishimoto, intelligence plays a huge role in the tactical battles that take place all throughout the series. One of the most tactical arcs by far in the series is the war arc, where we get to meet the most stupid character in the entirety of Naruto, Madara Uchiha. Madara Uchiha's plan literally made no sense at all. After leaving the village, Madara tries to get Uchiha members to follow him, but they just flat out refuse to, and they say that they trust Hashirama more than they trust him. So what does Madara do? He comes back to the village and challenges Hashirama with the Nine Tails and just outright loses because he couldn't tell that Hashirama was holding back all of these years. The key part of this fight that doesn't make sense is that Madara, who has the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, by the way, is completely unable to tell that the Hashirama that fell on his back is a clone. Now, this can be seen in one of two ways. Madara was too cocky that he finally defeated Hashirama and just let his guard down, or two, Madara was too exhausted to tell the difference. Either way, this doesn't look good for Madara, because we need to remember that all throughout the series, it's pretty much hammered in our heads that advanced dojutsu are capable of sensing abnormalities in the chakra. Which dojutsu, other than the Rinnegan, is more advanced than the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan? After this, Madara uses the Izanagi to return to life and spends the next 30 to 40 years alone in a cave after adding Hashirama cells to his own body. Towards the end of his life, Madara actually awakened the Rinnegan and discovered its powers. This happened right when Madara was about to die. What does Madara do with this? He puts the Rinnegan into a 2-year-old Uzumaki orphan in the Hidden Rain village. Why? Because he wanted Nagato to revive him with the Rene rebirth. We'll revisit this later. Fast forward about 15 years, Madara finds Obito crushed beneath the rocks and ends up saving his life with Hashirama cells. He would then set up Rin's abduction and subsequent death about a year after finding Obito, and he allows him to leave to try to save her, actually. Now, this is a bad plan for two reasons. One, the operation is based on the fact that Obito just wouldn't make it in time to help his friends, and the second reason being that Kakashi and Rin just wouldn't fight back. After seeing Rin die on Kakashi's lightning blade, Obito awakens his Mangekyo and kills all of the Anbu. He then returns back to Madara and listens to his entire plan. Madara explains stuff to him. And now revisiting Nagato, the implanting of the Rinnegan into him was just stupid. Because the only way Nagato would have known to revive Madara is if someone brainwashed him to do that. Who's that someone? Obito, who wasn't even born yet. Obito's actually 4 years younger than Nagato, who was 2 at the time. So Obito wouldn't have been born for 2 more years. So realistically, Madara had no way to get Nagato to revive him without just getting lucky due to Obito being crushed. Which, by the way, Madara had no plan for anything happening unless Obito was born, which he had no prior knowledge of. So Madara's plan in that way is just dumb. He had no other option. He just did it to do it. So Madara's entire plan relies on the fact that this 14-year-old kid would be able to collect all 9-tailed beasts and brainwash Nagato, who is 18 at the time that Madara is dead. And by the way, Madara had no idea that Nagato would even be able to survive the war. Because by the way, he was from the Hidden Rain and lived in the Hidden Rain, which by the way is a land struck by war because of its placement. And when Madara did this, chronologically, it would likely be either at the end of the Second Great Ninja War or in the middle of it, which was the entire reason that Nagato, Yahiko, and Konan grew up the way they did, because they saw war everywhere and their parents were killed by the war. So, when you look at all of this and really think about it, that was the dumbest thing he could have done, because he chose a child that was most likely gonna die, and he had no reason to believe or be aware of Jiraiya and know that Jiraiya would eventually go train them to be strong and survive, because that's also the only reason they survived, because Jiraiya trained them. Now that we recognize every problem with the plan, we have to remember this exact plan actually failed 3 times. It failed first when Nagato completely ignored Obito's brainwashing and used the Rinne Rebirth to revive everyone from the Hidden Leaf after Pain's attack. The second failure was when Obito just wasn't able to collect all 9-tailed beasts. He actually only got the first 7. And he ended up using Kinkaku and Ginkaku along with a single tail from the 8 tails to revive the incomplete 10 tails. Third, Obito had no intention of reviving Madara in the slightest. and was actually shocked when Kabuto showed him Madara's body because he did not want to revive him. And he even said during the war that he does not see Madara as an ally or a comrade at all. Furthermore, a fact that most people either choose to ignore or just didn't realize was that the Rin Rebirth doesn't revive you at the peak of your power, and it never did that. In the story, the two times we saw it used, there was no implication that it revived you at the peak of your power. It revived you as you were when you died, or as your body is when they return their soul to you. So, using this logic, if Madara was revived by Nagato, he would have either died immediately or had to plug himself back into Ghetto Mazo to survive. Why do I say this? Because we see it firsthand. When Madara awakens the Rinnegan, he specifically says he was going to die. That was at the moment he was going to die. He awakened the Rinnegan, discovered its powers, and summoned the Ghetto Mazo from the Sealing Stone, or the Moon, which is the other name. He plugs himself into the Ghetto Mazo to survive. If we just use common sense here, we can discover that Madara would have been forced to summon the Ghetto Mazo likely almost as soon as he awakened the Rinnegan. And if we say that he gave the Rinnegan to Nagato within the same year or the year after, he spent 16 to 17 years plugged up into that Ghetto Mazo just to survive because he was coming to the end of his natural life. So, who is to say that when he returns to life, 17 years past his death date, he wouldn't just immediately die? The only reason that this wasn't the case in the main story when he was actually Rinne Rebirth during the war was because Kabuto was explicitly stated to have restored Madara's body to the peak of its power and even told Madara that he did it when he said that I restored you to your power and gave you even more. So there, we can see that Madara had no idea or indication that somebody would do all the research to empower his body back to its prime. He had no reason to believe that. So the entire plan of getting Rinne Rebirth made no sense on so many levels because how was he going to do it? Because Nagato was just a child and didn't even know that the eyes weren't his, by the way. Nagato grew up assuming that the Rinnegan was his own power. And on another level, what was he going to do once he was Rinne Rebirth? Because he would have been an old man that can't even live without chakra constantly feeding into him from the Ghetto Mazo. In all of these ways, Madara had both the dumbest plan in Naruto and the most inefficient plan in Naruto, which failed multiple times, but he just consistently got lucky. Like, if you read Naruto, if you really read the war arc, you'll see that most of it is just Madara getting ungodly lucky for no reason. Honestly speaking, though, there are plenty of characters in the story that are dumber than Madara, but I think that he holds the title of dumbest because of his knowledge. He is easily one of, if not the most knowledgeable people in the entire universe, aside from the Sage of Six Paths himself. Madara is constantly the person giving context on situations, telling the story about the Six Paths, telling the story about the Byakugan Princess and Kaguya and everything. He told all those stories. The only person that told almost as many stories as he did was Itachi. But because of this vast knowledge that Madara seems to have about the world and all of its nuances in Naruto, that's what makes him the dumbest. Because he had all of this knowledge at his disposal and just seemingly ignored it. Now, you could make the case that he only ignored it because he was brainwashed by Black Zetsu, but that's kind of just irrelevant. The main point of this video is to say that for one of the most knowledgeable people in the entire history of Naruto, you would assume that he'd have a better grand plan than this. Because the plan only actually makes sense when you're watching the war with context of everything that already happened. It doesn't make sense when you're thinking about it through the scope of Madara at the time he did everything he was doing. It doesn't make sense. But that was my take on who the dumbest Naruto character is. And I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you got up to this point, I really appreciate you watching. I hope that you at least take some of my opinions into account. You don't have to take it as fact because obviously it is an opinion, but it is an opinion that I basically watched and read the show, and I just thought this. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe, especially if you want to see more videos. You can hit me in the comments and ask me what other hot takes I have, and if they're good enough for an entire video, I'll make another video like this. If not, I might just respond to you in a comment. But I am looking to create more videos like this, basically just about, not even just about Naruto, about other anime that I've watched or have a real opinion on. But yeah, thanks for watching the video, and just don't be as dumb as Madara.